of the Rush Planning Board. I'd like to wish everybody happy holidays and hope everybody stays well into the new year and on and into next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You too.
Okay, we have two tabled applications tonight, but before we get to them, has everyone had a chance to review the November minutes of the planning board? And do they have any changes, corrections, or deletions to them?
I had nothing.
I have a few.
Okay, Scott.
Page 3, bullet 9. It says MC Department of Public Health does approve public wells. I thought that was it does not.
It is, it's supposed to be, it does not.
Yeah, I think we're missing the not. So that kind of changes the meaning.
Yes. You said you have,
Second one is page 6, bullet,
page what, Scott?
page 6, bullet 3.
Bless you.
There's just some typos and punctuation that could be improved in there. I'm not going to go through it. It doesn't really change anything.
Okay, while you're on page 6, I don't know if it printed out the same for you, but at the top of the page, my page 6, it says Sherman Felson, I gotta put my glasses on, restated the action items for the subdivision. I'd like Deer Farm added before subdivision. And also at the end of my comments, it says engineer Yule note, and it should be noted that the drainage easement course description and meets and bounds needs to correspond with the maps. Scott, did you have anything else?
Yeah, page 6, the bottom section, it says Chair or Deputy Chair Morelli motioned. I thought that was Chair Felson because Deputy Chair Morelli seconded. Am I right?
I'm trying to remember, Scott.
I don't remember either.
Well, but I think it says Deputy Chair Morelli seconded. He can't motion and second both.
Oh,
I don't think.
right, you're right.
You're right. I guess it was myself then. Okay, so it should be Chair Felson.
Motion, yeah.
Anything else?
Well, the last one I have, again, is not that important, but on page 7, I would prefer if there was a title of, for the forefront power item, if there was a title there of 2019-06P, because it looks like it kind of moves right in from the previous item without the description there.
Okay, so you would want forefront power, or you want the application for
No,
forefront?
not the application, just kind of like a title line that referred to 2019-06P.
Okay. Did you get that, Shelley?
Again, it's not
Mhm.
that important, but it would read better, I think, and be more clear. That's it.
Okay. Don, did you have anything?
I didn't have anything, no.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the minutes as amended or corrected?
I make the motion that we accept the minutes as amended.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor? Say aye. Raise your hand. Okay, so the first tabled hearing is the Temple requesting a subdivision and site plan review approval for the construction of a new 28,986 square foot temple. Phase 1 is a 2,280 square foot. The property is located at 6980 East River Road, Rush, New York. The property is zoned residential R30. So Larry, if you could bring the board up to date. I know you've submitted a lot of information since our last meeting.
Yes.
I guess a lot of information is probably mostly for Todd. But to bring you up to date, the most recent map you saw was the resub plat. And if you recall, it was back in 2015 when we had a different Temple footprint that we shifted the line between 6970 and 6980, one being the Temple property and one being the property that had the ranch, that has the ranch house on it. That line is shifted in 2015, goes through the middle of phase one, and as Jack Kaltenbach from Monroe County Health Department pointed out, we can't supply water from the metered backflowed service on the Temple, the northern property, 6970, to a property across a property line. So the resub basically just gets rid of it. I assume it'll all be one, it'll be one tax account, one property, and probably have the address of 6970 East River Road. Todd made a comment about showing the drainage easement on Railroad Creek, which we will do. It has been shown on our engineering plans. And I believe back in 2015, Israel Marcus actually wrote the written description. So that's just a bit of housekeeping that needs to happen with the resub. Plans were done according to what Greg Bly wants down at County Survey, so don't see any problem. Site plan is what it is now. You're seeing sheet one, the site plan for the whole build out. Sheet two is the utilities, so you're seeing everything below ground. For the first phase, we aren't going to be doing any asphalt work. No plans for that. Just the building sitting out in the lawn with a probably a crushed, very fine stone path coming from the loop that currently goes to the ranch house. The ranch house will be our field trailer, our construction office. The water supply, as I previously touched on, will come from the 2-inch poly that is metered and backflowed into the front of the new building of the phase one. We had many meetings with Jim Sickles, who might be on. The sanitary will be a grinder pump in the basement. Probably also looking at a grease trap, laundry tub, various things, but those are part of mechanicals, part of building design. But that's going to pump over to the septic tank for the leach field of the existing ranch, which is not being lived in. And our water will be maybe 10, 20 gallons a week for washing down the deity, part of the ritual. That leach field is most likely sized for 450 gallons a day. So our small contribution is trivial, and response from, again, Jack Kaltenbach, which I copied the board with those emails, is just for me to provide a letter report as to what we're doing, and that will be acceptable. Also, while we're talking water, Autumn Ashley from Monroe County Water said, once you're past the meter and the backflow, the system is yours. They have no review. And Jim Sickles sent over a cut sheet from Penfield Plumbing today of a Mueller brass fitting as to how we're going to make the connection. I can provide that to the town if people are interested. So that's really the water sewer. Again, discussion with Jim Sickles and his team. We'll be bringing the gas service from the ranch house after the gas meter. That is a 1-inch service. I measured it yesterday in the field. And the heating for the new phase one will be 2 Mitsubishi split systems. The electrical power on site is currently single phase. 3-phase power is up at Route 251. 11 telephone poles. I forget the distance, but maybe about a half mile. Sickles Group is already, I contacted National Grid, and Sickles Group is already dialoguing with their people and filling out their forms to extend 3-phase down the road, which we will need for the full temple build out. We're also going to be running telephone and cable out to the phase 1 because that will be monitored. That probably won't be the telephone and cable when we do the final full build out, but that will come from the ranch house. So I've touched on water, sewer, electric, telephone, and cable. Moving on into the plans.
Larry, before you go on, how are you going to provide water to phase 1?
We're tapping the 2-inch poly on the north side of the driveway, which is after the meter and RPZ, and bringing it southward. They'll have to do a road cut on their driveway, bringing it southward and into the front of the building. There's a heavy line, so 1-inch water.
I see that, but okay. So it's going to go underground to the phase 1.
Yep, and into that front corner.
Okay, and you also show a 6-inch fire service.
I don't think we're going to be sprinklering the phase 1 building. There is an existing 6-inch fire on the north side of the driveway.
No, I see that. And you show tapping that and going into the temple, proposed temple, right next to the 2-inch. Or
that will happen in phase 2. With phase 2, that is the main mechanical room. And part of Todd's request is that we show more detail down the road. But once we build phase 2, we'll have a real mechanical room, and we'll bring the fire service in there along with the water supply for the full temple.
So excuse me, Larry. So John, I asked Larry to, as we move forward, he would have to provide more detail at each phase, specifically for the buildings. So this is overall for the whole site, utility wise. Larry, is that correct? That's what your goal is going to be as they move through each one?
Yeah, I mean, what I said in my letter today is, after looking at this, we're going to prepare a plan, probably 2.1, which will show, you'll see it in the final set, which will show the phase 2 building, which is a mirror image of phase 1. But to build that building, we're going to have to move the road to the north. Okay, the access road's going to have to kick north. But to the specific question, is that phase 2 building, that northwest corner is a loading dock. That is a mechanical room. And so that's where we'll be bringing in the domestic water and the fire sprinkler service for the full 30,000 square foot temple. That's about 2 years from now. Does that make sense?
Okay, but what you said phase 2 is an image or a mirror image of phase 1 building.
Yes, in the northwest corner.
Oh, in the northwest corner.
Yeah. Phase
Okay.
1 is southwest, phase 2 will be northwest.
Okay,
Take that little square and flop it over.
So Larry, you're going to show that, you're going to provide that and show the road move to the north, which is just a realignment of the road. Will the access be the same point, the existing entrance to each?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's why our site plan shows the whole
Yep,
the caboodle.
okay, so there's not, okay, we're good.
Phase 1, we don't have to do, we're not doing any road building. We're just putting a building out in the front lawn.
Right, right.
Phase 2, we're gonna have to move the road. We'll be bringing in the water. There again won't be any sewer other than over to the septic tank, but I'll show that all on a separate drawing.
So this leads you into your grading and your drainage. That's the last piece, unless John has other utility questions.
No, I understand that we're going, Todd, you're going to get more plans, or we're going to get more plans regarding the phasing and the building?
Yes,
Just on phase two, just to clearly, because about 2 weeks ago, I was over at a meeting at Sickles, and we were discussing how deep the foundation is. Our basement is at elevation 616, and the grade where phase one is 621. We're only 5 feet below grade to our basement for phase one. So where everyone was thinking, okay, it's 12 feet from the finished floor to the basement, it's 12 feet, but excavation wise, it's only a 5-6 foot excavation. We've got a lot, fill around the building because of, over a 300 some odd foot building. I guess 236 feet, we go from elevation 625 to elevation 621. I don't mean to be losing anybody here, but looking at this today, I said, it's very helpful sitting with Jim and talking about constructability. And it would be good to kind of put some more detail on phase two for constructability.
Okay, I got another question, because on my drawing number one, it also shows a 1-inch water service going to phase one building off of the existing 2-inch poly service. So there's,
Yeah, that, well, if you picture this, phase one will be built. It'll have this little water service. Phase two will be built, but the two buildings are not attached. The phase two building is going to be on the other side of that west entrance, that box that's right in the middle. So the phase two building will be about 25 feet north. There'll be a 25-foot separation between the two structures. Okay.
right, but you're going to have 2 water services to the temple eventually.
Well, I think ultimately the phase one water service will be abandoned. It'll just be abandoned at the connection.
and Larry, all water services are after the RPZ. Could you?
Pardon me?
All water services are after the RPZ,
Yeah, the RPZ is actually in a hot box out by the road.
right? So all this is internal, basically, service
Well-
incoming.
Not for, what about the existing water service for the house?
The existing water service for the house is coming in north of phase one. And we are not touching that in phase one. In phase two, it could be in the way of the phase two building. So we will have to look at that.
I know, but in the answer to Todd's question, that 1.5-inch poly water service is not protected by a backflow preventer.
Exactly, which is why I decided that we weren't going to connect to it, because we would have to put backflow prevention in the house. And it's just easier to go to the one that's already backflowed.
Okay, so when you build the actual temple, you're going to abandon the existing 1.5-inch poly water service to the house? Or,
That will be abandoned and the house will actually be demolished.
okay, and you're gonna show that?
We can add that, demolish the house and that to be removed.
Okay, and you're gonna abandon these other utility services to the house? The gas,
Yes.
electric,
They're all going to have to be abandoned.
telephone, okay,
Yep.
go ahead. I think Todd, you were,
No, I was just gonna lead it, Larry, into the SWIP part of it and the drainage. That's the last big piece. There's maybe some other things too. I know he responded to most comments. You know, you can go through the SWIP, you know, Larry, your proposal for stormwater management. I will say that Uday Kalami in my office reviewed it. I looked at it also. He found it acceptable. The calculations, the notice of intent, and the, I think it's bioretention was the practice, were all acceptable for the New York design manual. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I'll let Joe Ardiata know.
Yeah, I wished it would have been a week sooner, but you know,
So do I.
we do our best.
So do I. I kept bugging people to get Joey the grading plan and Joey then to get me the answers. And then, as you know, you have to toggle back and forth between what the computer's telling you and what the pipe inverts are going to be. And then you finally come out the end with a good design. And I want to say to the board, this is a much better, clearer plan that, you know, than what we produced back in September. I should have started, I said, no problem with Todd's comments. And you could probably tell that the Monroe County comments were exactly as I anticipated, because they don't change. But Todd, the one thing, I mean, we have a full SWIP. I think Joe did a great job. We're probably going to start building some of those drainage basins at phase 2, the north and the west for sure. Possibly even the south, just to get them done. The other thing is that for the board, I added down on the outlet going down to the creek, the 15-inch pipe is now going to be 12. It makes less than a 3-inch difference in an invert. It's a cheaper pipe. It's a narrower trench. But I also added about 50 feet of pipe and 2 drainage inlets, catch basins that have vertical drops through the basins. So we have a velocity check as we're discharging. And we're coming out the end of the pipe at a velocity of 2.6 feet per second. And that's tied back into the sizing of the riprap per the DEC Blue Book detail for riprap.
Yep.
Does that all make sense, Todd?
Yep, and you're gonna provide the additional details. I know you said that.
Yeah, actually, they're on a PDF. I can send them to you in the morning.
All right,
They're already on sheet 4 for the light pole bases, and they're on sheet whatever, the riprap is already on the sheet 3. I'm looking at a little PDF right now.
all right. I'd like to, Larry, we'd like to see all the stormwater management installed. I don't think it affects you. I mean, you can do all 3 ponds. Obviously, you won't do all the grading yet, I don't think, for the parking, you know. You can tell us your construction sequence, but we'd like to have at least the E&S stuff all installed, you know, as you get going. I know this will be a longer build-out process, but, you know, that's one thing that we like to have done. Is there an issue with that, or do you? have any
Well,
concerns?
not really, just, I mean, there's an issue only from the cost basis. The must-haves is I need to put in this the deep storm sewer that basically is the footer drains.
Mhm.
And then the way the phase 1 building drains, we could put in the west basin out by the road, because that's where that water is going right now. Then with phase 2, with us moving the road, we need to put in the north basin, and then we would just put in the south basin. So I guess that would be my phasing, is with phase 1, we do the west pond, And with phase two, we'd be to the north and the south. Because our phase one area is somewhere between 0.4 and 0.5 acres.
Yeah. But you don't think phase two will actually go forward for what, 3, 4, 5 years?
I'm just gonna say 2 years, 3 years. I mean, phase one is $1 million project. They've got to raise another $1 million to do phase two.
Mhm. Hmm. The only
Okay, you-
concerns I have with that, and I know John Mancuso's still on someplace, there he is. This is a phased project, but the SWIP is done for the whole project. So I would really need to have it all installed at once, even though, you know, it would be used for the construction, you know, if we're gonna get coverage under the permit. You know, John, what are your thoughts? I mean, I saw you shaking your head, but that's, you know, I don't want to create heartache for the temple or, you know, dollar, you know, I know there's cost involved, but if we're doing a SWIP, we're setting it up and this is the whole grading plan. My statement is I think we should install all the basins and get the storm pipes in there. But, you know,
at this time, okay.
yeah, at this time, John, that's, you know,
Okay, well, I was gonna ask, where is the outlet to the west basin?
The west basin has a weir down by the southwest corner, but then it goes into a pipe. When the water gets high enough, it goes into a pipe, it flows over to the south basin.
I know, but you said you were only gonna put in the west basin?
For phase
Yeah, there-
one. Phase one is well
Okay.
under a half acre. I mean, so, I mean, I'm not trying to be difficult here. I'm just trying, you know, if KK's sitting there and says, we'll just do the whole thing, we'll do the whole thing. And if your attorney says that's what we need to do, that's what we need to do.
No, I think Todd is recommending to the board that you put in the overall drainage in the ponds.
yep.
And the storm drainage piping with this phase.
Yeah, the whole thing, John. Yep.
Okay, and you know, the other thought running through my head, and again, this goes back to the meeting at Sickles a couple weeks ago, is we have a basement of this building of, I think, about 28,000 square feet. Because not all, there are appendages on the building that do not have a basement. And in that basement, the central area is not actually excavated. Under all of the altars is earth. So we're getting into an earthwork, cut fill, topsoil issue. And that gives me pause that not that I can really change the pad or the elevation of the building, but I don't want the temple to get ahead of itself because we're exporting material that later on we're going to need, or vice versa. So I guess I'll defer to John. Those are my reasons as an engineer. I'm not trying to make an end run around stormwater. If that's why right now phase one drains to the west, and putting in the west basin would probably more than adequately address the stormwater for phase one.
Okay, but
So I'd like to
it
hear
would
what
be
John.
it would be an infiltration basin because you're not proposing any outlet.
Well, it's got a weir, and right now what happens in the front lawn is it pretty much soaks in and slowly works its way down to the southwest corner of the site, where it then gets into it. There's a ditch along East River Road. So that's really what's happening there. The other thing we could do is we could build these basins, but a slightly smaller volume, and then increase the volume later. And again, it's just to reduce the earthwork and not get going in the wrong direction for future work. But those are my thoughts.
Well, I guess I'll leave this up to Todd to advise the board on the
Yeah.
best approach here.
I mean, honestly, the SWIP wasn't really designed to act independently. It's a comprehensive plan, so I hear what you're saying, Larry. I was just looking at the grading real close here to see how much fill you had and this and that in the parking lot. Not that far off. The 625, and you got a foot, it's probably your worst place. And then you're on there, and then at the entrance drive, you're close, but
With the
they're
steps.
excavating. Yeah, my recommendation would be to install the whole thing now, because we don't like these piecemeal things where then you gotta come back, potentially, maybe we forget to enlarge a pond, it wasn't done per plan, it makes it harder for our code enforcement, to get out there and inspect it too. As time passes, we found on other projects, not saying you guys would do that, just that's what's happened, so it's clean. We can get the job approved as you've designed it and, get going on.
All right, then we'll do it, and what we can do is down where we show the overflow parking area, which is just turf.
Yep.
We can use that for stockpiles
Yeah.
and put silt fence down on the south side of it. And even if the silt runs out, it's going to run into the south basin.
Mhm.
So that's where we'll,
Yeah.
that's what we'll do.
Yep.
But so are you saying that you will construct the South Basin now? As
Well,
as-
Todd's telling me that he wants it done.
Yeah,
And,
John, all of it.
and so
All of the basins. Yeah.
we're going to do it. We'll do the whole thing, and we'll figure out the earthwork, what's coming and going, and what we're going to need in the future, and what we need to stockpile. And we're just going to do it.
Okay, I don't want to upset the apple cart here. I trust Todd's judgment on this, but Larry, you had said that western basin would more or should or would more than accommodate the runoff. Is that, do you feel confident?
Well, for phase one, and if you want, we can do a quick what if of phase one in the West Basin and see if it passes the sniff test for all of the DEC mandates.
I mean, you also said that it would probably result in some runoff through the spillway there along East River Road. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that's where it goes now.
But if we build the southern basin, then we could avoid that?
It's, the majority goes to the southern basin. We could build the southern basin to a smaller width. It would be the same length, obviously, but we could build it to a smaller width just to let the water move through that. I have a scale here and a drawing. It has to move through the basin for 200 feet to get from the input to the output. So we could build that. We just don't make as big a prism.
But Todd, this is, you're saying build it completely or?
Build all three, yes. Build the whole thing, because his SWIP is set up and prepared for the whole site. It's not prepared to build one basin with potentially, or make another one a little smaller. So, that's not what he's asking for coverage under. He's asking for the whole SWIP for the whole project as designed. What you're saying, what he's trying to say is realistically, for that little building of phase one, yeah, he doesn't need all this. But we asked him, because it's a phase project with a much bigger final build out, to do the SWIP stormwater management for the whole project. So I'm saying install it all now so that the report matches the plans and he gets coverage under it.
And we think there is adequate storage for soil to avoid the problem you were discussing with having to ship it off-site and then bring it back?
There's adequate. There's adequate. storage.
I-
Just, it's just, you're gonna move it twice, you're gonna move it multiple times. There is a cost.
I see Jim is on here. Is Jim your site guy? Is he gonna do the site work, Larry, or Jim? He's been
Yeah,
listening.
guys, you'll have to handle it a couple times and,
Yep,
and then you gotta stockpiles, isn't the Swift guys have a big,
Yeah.
issue with that too, on how we treat that for time, and, in the Swift, it'll be specific ways of holding that soil, there's an expense to it.
right. So what he's saying is he's gonna.
Phase one is, I don't mean to interrupt, but phase one is, pretty much a small part of the project. I don't know if you want to disturb the whole facility for, phase one. There's a lot of site work here for the entire project compared to what site, phase one requires, or really needs,
Yeah, our only trigger is that SWIP. I mean, John Mancuso can jump in here, but on that phasing, but the reality is, I would like to see it all built and laid out that way, the way you designed it. That matches the SWIP, matches the coverage on the permit. Understand you'll have to do earthworks, you'll have to potentially take some soil off site, is what Jim's saying. But that said, this is the way it's laid out and designed. It's not, so you're asking for something less than what you're showing now. So I don't know, John, what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, from a seeker perspective, certainly the planning board needs to evaluate the comprehensiveness of the impact for all phases. From a permitting standpoint, if they are seeking permitting for the entirety of the stormwater management system, then I would agree with you, Todd. And from an engineering perspective, I'll have to defer to you on the specifics of how it's designed and how it's calculated. But if that's the permitting they're seeking, then it would make sense per your recommendation to have the facility constructed as the approval it is they're seeking. If they were seeking a section of the approval, that might be a different analysis, but that isn't what is before the board.
Correct.
Yeah, and back a few months ago, we were trying to get phase one approved, and you guys were all very clear that you wanted to approve the whole thing, because if we just did phase one approval and in 3 years, all of a sudden the winds changed and then phase two didn't get approved, then we were, not in a good spot. So I guess it just hit me that if I'm a developer like a Ted Spall, I go in and do all my site work and do all my stormwater and get everything ready to go. And he even builds his roads so people can drive around on roads. Then he says, whatever lot you want me to build your house on, let me know and we'll build it. So we'll take the Ted Spall approach.
Yep.
So we're in agreement.
Who's in agreement?
We in agreement that you're gonna do the whole thing?
I don't think we have any choice. I mean, we're kind of flogging this around, and it might be an extra $100,000, of earthwork, but it'll be done and it'll be done.
Yeah, if the board agrees, then definitely we can do it.
Let's yep.
Was that Shriji?
Vimran was talking, and this is KK.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll go with that.
We'll go with that, we'll take the board's recommendation for sure.
Okay. Todd, did you have anything more?
I don't, yeah, Eric, Larry mentioned the easement, he's gonna include that, we discussed it. I'm trying to see, there's little things, he's gonna, septic system will be reviewed and approved. No, I think I'm good, unless the board, I'm good.
Okay, I know Larry referred to the Department of Planning and Development's review, and they are the general comments, but I'm going to rapidly go through them. It was reviewed under General Municipal Law, Section 239M, and they said the Development Review Committee also made comments. And it mentions the floodway and the flood boundary, which are shown on plan number 1. And it mentions the stream, which you're not touching. You're not even, I mean, you're way away from the stream.
Yeah, I think in my cover letter, I pointed out we were 330 feet higher and over 300 feet away from the stream.
Right, I understand that. I'm not reading the whole comments. I'm just going through them fast. Number 3 is the standard comment regarding the New York State Agricultural Markets Law, Article 25AA, which mentions, and you have supplied an agricultural data statement, and the nearest agricultural land is where, Larry? Across the creek, or?
It's across the creek, our eastern boundary with, I think, Moore, the Moore Farm.
Okay,
And I did submit the ag data statement. That was in the September submittal. And actually, if you dig into the SWIP, one of the earlier pages has a color. There's some color stuff showing wetlands and things, and you can see the cornfields out to the east.
okay, and then the DRC comments, the first 3 comments are from the Monroe County Department of Public Health. And it says the proposed project may require a backflow preventer. And I saw in your submittal that you've contacted the health department, and they said that since you're tapping the water main downstream of the existing backflow preventer, that you don't need a new backflow preventer.
That's correct. And that comment came from Jack Kaltenbach. And so I apologize. I meant to send Kaltenbach's response over to Frazier a week or 2 ago, so he knew that there was already a conversation going on. But go on, John.
But you said you're going to abandon the water service to the existing house.
We will at some point. I'll show that on the new drawing, our final drawing, when we abandon it. But if we're using it for a field office, I'd like to have a bathroom there.
Okay, but you may have, the health department's going to have to determine whether you need a backflow preventer for that service.
Well, if we're just using it to wash our hands and flush
I know,
the
but it
toilet.
goes to the overall site, Larry.
Okay, well, I'll figure that out with Frazier.
Okay, number 2, the proposed project is a subdivision of land that does not require realty subdivision approval by the Monroe County Department of Public Health. And just says, however, if plans are to be filed in the Monroe County Clerk's Office, Health Department sign off is required. Existing and proposed utilities need to be shown on the plans to ensure all lots have their own access to sanitary facilities and drinking water. Number 3, the proposed project utilizes a private wastewater treatment system and will require approval by the Monroe County Department of Public Health. Next is from the Monroe County Department of Transportation. The consultant has confirmed that no work is proposed in the Monroe County right-of-way, and that would be of East River Road. Next are no comments from the Monroe County Department of Environmental Service. And the next one is from the New York State Department of Transportation. The project was not sent to the New York State Department of Transportation, and that's understandable since the project is off of East River Road, which is a county road. Let's see. One thing I didn't see, I saw lighting, and I know you've presented the lighting layout to Todd in the review for the placement of the lights. And you had the plantings, and we may have discussed it back in September, but regarding solid waste, is there going to be an outside dumpster, or How is solid waste going to be handled?
Okay. Look at your phase one building. And in the lower left corner, there are two squares. And
With a door? Yeah, fence.
on your site plan, it's on the grading plan.
Okay, but it's, Larry, it's not labeled.
Mhm.
Oh, well,
you have
those two things are the dumpster. That's, the dumpster enclosure is integral to the building facade.
Okay, so it's inside.
It is actually outside, but
Oh.
it is integral to the, when you look at, and that's what that little driveway is
Right.
with an elevation of 622.5. So it's easy to see on the grading plan. Sheet 3.
Yeah, I'm getting there, but you didn't label it on number 1.
One sheet.
All right,
It's
well,
not, it's not labeled on the, you can just label it.
no, we'll label it. But what's trick about this, we spent hours on this. You're gonna go down a half a flight of stairs, and there's also internally an elevator with 2 doors, front and back. You can go down a half a flight of stairs from the finished floor to the elevation of the dumpsters, which are outside. One is for trash and one is for recycle, and then down another half flight of stairs to the basement level. So the elevator will have finished floor, dumpster elevation, and basement stops. And that little driveway there is the access for the wheelbase 30 trash truck. And I actually moved the access road along the front of the building further away from the building for the turning radiuses of that truck. And that's also why the grade there has been softened. But we will label it.
Okay, thank you.
This is Scott. How is the view of those dumpsters blocked from East River Road?
There are, it's actually on the architecturals I provided you, but the gates look like the building. The gates look like the building. So when you're looking at the building, you're not going to see dumpsters.
Scott, did you have anything else?
I'm not sure whether if Shriji, if Ashok is here from Houston, but
I think so.
believe me, you're not going to see dumpsters. You're going to see building.
So they're enclosed, yeah.
They're enclosed. The height is only 5 feet. The doors are 6 feet, something like that. So you're not going to see them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else, Scott?
No, I don't.
Okay, John Morelli,
No, sir.
Don Sweet?
Yeah, I was wondering, maybe we've discussed this in the past, but for like buses, what is the flow of traffic going to be around this building and to the parking lot? Are the buses going to go around the back to the far east and come around to the south to the parking lot? Or are they going to come around and the major part of traffic going to come across the front of the building? How is that going to work?
I think I'm going to have to, I'll take a flyer here. I think the buses are going to proceed along the north side, then turn and go south. And they're going to go underneath the portico, which is high enough for the buses because the eastern entrance is the main entrance to the temple.
Okay.
They may also drop off passengers on the north side. You notice that all of the entrances have handicap ramps. So I'm not sure about the flow, but it would not surprise me that they go in along the north, they go clockwise and drop people off at this covered portico, because that is the grand entrance to the temple. And then they'll proceed down into the parking lot and park or leave, whatever they need to do.
Okay, and the other question I had was, I know that this is primarily going to be block limestone or sandstone building, but is there any sprinkler system set up for this large building, or is there any need for that?
Jim Sickles can jump in here, but the current fire supply is a 6-inch fire. We have 70 pounds of pressure. The current building is sprinklered. This building will be sprinklered. And Jim was going to have Colonial Sprinklers take a look at it for preliminary sizing.
So the whole building cleared, or
The whole building.
Whole building, okay. All right.
But not phase one, you said, right?
I don't think phase 1, but that could change.
Yeah, that's correct. We'll rough for it, but we wouldn't want to get into that because that's a bunch of stuff with RPZ and all that kind of stuff, you know.
And I guess the only other question I had was, so we've got lighting in the parking lot. Have we gone to any extent to make sure that there's not going to be any light overflow onto the southern properties or anything like that? Or is that something that you've already decided or had gotten taken care of?
Your sheet 4, the lighting and the landscape.
Yep.
Shows the foot candle plot.
Okay.
And that dashed line that you're seeing is actually the 0.25 foot candle. Okay. And up on the north side where you see the little bumps coming off the Colonial poles, inside of those little bumps is a little dashed, another symbol inside of that. That is actually the 0.5.
Okay, so that's the dotted line is where your lighting is going to end.
Yeah, there's out at the west side, Don. It says there's 2 leaders. One says 0.25 foot candle contour, and the other one says 0.5 foot candle.
Right.
So I said, you know what? Why don't we just show the 0.25, even though code is 0.5? Let's just show what we got.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, anything else, Don?
No, that covers what I had in mind.
Okay, Jim Sickles, you mentioned that you're going to rough in the fire service for phase 1?
Yeah, we would rough it, you know, stub it all into the basement and, you know, pipe it in because they want to finish the space, and then we'd hook it up later with, you know, the final building.
Okay, and that's coming off the existing fire service?
Good question. I would expect so. Yeah, I had to get Colonial in on that, but there'll be a full design on it, of course.
Yeah, I mean, what'll happen is at phase 2, the fire service will come into the phase 2 utility room, which is the utility room for the whole building. And then all the sprinkler system will take off from there, and it'll plug in to the rough-in in phase 1 that Jim has left behind. Does that make sense?
Right, but you don't need a backflow preventer for the fire service. You're using the existing fire service, the 6-inch that's coming in.
That's correct, and that probably has a double check out there.
I don't know.
Well, the Water Authority's record said that it did have some kind of a check on it when Autumn Ashley was looking it up.
Okay.
But like Jim said, he'll rough in the sprinklers in phase one so he can finish the space, but then we'll tap into it and connect it up when the building is integrated into the final product. As an aside, we're
But
gonna have,
phase two, you're going to build a like structure. You mentioned 25 feet or 50 feet from phase one.
phase two is gonna be a very similar structure to phase one,
Yeah, but how far apart? Didn't you say?
25 feet.
Okay, so,
Right, so when my point is, to provide water for phase two, we'll just bring it in right in the mechanical room that's integral in the design of phase two. When we build phase three, then everything gets hooked together, plugged together.
okay.
One of the other things, just as an aside, is this building is going to have radiant floor heat, both in the basement and on the first floor. We'll be putting the coils in the floor on phase one, but we're not going to be putting warm fluid in those in phase one. It'll still be a cold floor until we get to phase three.
Hey, Larry, is it possible to show the outline of the building footprints for 2 and 3? I know 3 is the final, right?
Yeah, we can show phase two
Yeah, just,
on the final plan.
and one last thing. I know we've talked about a lot of stuff. These look a lot, these have come a long way since our first meeting, but there still are some extra items that the extra grading and the other sheets. Are you gonna put together one final comprehensive set for the board and myself?
Yes.
So all of it's gathered up together? Yeah,
No, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna add a 2.1 and a 3.1 that deals with the phase two and pulls all this stuff together.
okay.
Yeah, you're not gonna be signing any Mylars till they're done.
Okay, good.
Amber?
I'm good. Thank you.
John Mancuso?
I have nothing further.
Anybody else? Anybody from the audience? Okay, thank you. The second tabled application, let me just say, if I understand this, you're going to be developing a plan 1.2 and 1.3, Larry?
2.1 and 2.3.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're gonna
Okay.
show we'll show the phase two footprint on the site plan, on the utility, on the grading. But when you get into the grading, it might be cleaner just to have a separate sheet that shows what's going on for phase two.
Okay, and you're going to provide the legal description regarding the drainage district, or the drainage easement to the townwide drainage district.
Yes,
Okay, there is a form that needs to be completed and signed by the applicant or owner of the land. And part of that is the legal description of the drainage easement, besides the map with meets and bounds.
okay. And like I said, I think Israel actually wrote the description back in March of 15, but then the whole process stopped, and tomorrow morning he may send it to me and he can get it out of his computer, but otherwise he'll just rewrite it.
Okay,
And then
and
we'll get your form and we'll get a KK
Okay.
to sign it, notarize it, the whole deal.
okay, Todd has to review that, and John Mancuso also has to review and
Okay.
approve that. And then that gets when we get finalized, that gets filed in the Monroe
Yep.
County Clerk's office,
Um,
along with the subdivision.
Correct. question for John Mancuso. Will he file it, the easement, or does he want us to do it?
You will file the easement once Todd and myself confirm that the legal description is accurate.
Okay. Just asking.
Yep, not a problem.
So Larry, you can put am I on mute? No. Larry, you can put the course description right on the plans, and then the course description itself can be separate, but label it, number it, whatever you want to do, so the plan matches the course descriptions in the legal. That's easier. It's easier for myself, John Mancuso.
Yeah, well, I'm looking right now. There's actually a property corner on the south,
Yeah,
the south end of the site that could be the point of beginning, and then they can go clockwise or counterclockwise, whatever they want to do.
yep, 20 feet from top of bank.
Yep.
That's typical, yep, okay.
Any other questions or comments before we go on to the next tabled application? Okay. Next tabled application is the subdivision of the Gear Farm subdivision. And it's going to be, the name has changed, and it's going to be called, I don't have it right, I believe the Hunt and Ole Lot 1, or re-subdivision of the Gear Farm Lot 1. I don't know, Bill, is that correct?
Oh, you've almost got it. Yep. I talked to Sharif at the county, and he suggested we call it the Ole and Hunt subdivision, being a re-subdivision of the remaining land of the Gear Farm subdivisions, Lot 1.
Okay. But that was one of our items that we wanted you to look at. And Bill and Todd, do you want to go through any concerns you have? And just for the record, Bill, we determined that it was an unlisted seeker action and not a type 2.
Yep, that was my first one.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know Bill provided, I printed it out, 23 responses. So he has all the responses to my initial comments. And then in addition to that, he's got the note was added to the plan saying the property address will be the West Henrietta Road address. He added the Town Range County designation. He added the revised name that he just read. I won't repeat that. That's the longest name I've heard yet. But it's all what Sharif wanted, so that's what we're going with. The title of the pro subdivision was amended. That's what we just talked about. There's a very small triangle of land, he says, where the tributary to Rush Creek crosses the northeast corner of the parent parcel. This area is approximately 50 feet long. An easement centered on the stream for this area that is 30 feet wide can be provided to the town by the surveyor. So he is going to provide, that was a question, I think, that if there was a stream, he said he would provide the easement description. Is that correct? Bill?
Yeah, that's how I took it. Yep.
Yep.
As part of a previous section of one of the earlier lots that was subdivided off of this, they did grant that easement through there. So there's just a small missing piece of that where the stream crosses through the corner of the parent parcel.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna want you to add that.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. And Todd, or Bill and Todd, I guess, the 30 foot is from, I read the 30 foot easement. Is it a 30 foot easement, Bill?
That's what that's what we continue on to the parcel that was subdivided off of that. I don't know if you need it wider than that, but the next neighboring property downstream is only 30 feet.
Yeah.
I guess we could make it whatever you were going to require.
I guess we should, Todd, we should keep it with what it is, or
Yeah,
you want to take a look at that?
You can keep it, that's wider than what we normally, we only go with 20 feet top of bank, so.
Yeah, but this is 30 feet from center line. I don't know how wide. The creek probably isn't very wide.
Change of heart all of a sudden, jump and chip on
Right, I think what I'm proposing, I guess, would be 30 feet total width, so 15 feet from center line each direction.
Yeah. Which, you know, probably is sufficient for the town to get in. We typically like 20 feet, so I wouldn't be opposed to just keeping our current standard, John, you know. On this,
Okay, can we get 20 feet though, Bill? From top of bank or no?
Definitely on the north side we can.
Yep,
I'm just trying to pull up the,
yeah, I don't have the, I printed, oh, here it is. I got the tiny map, but.
I have the attachment, but if I share my screen, it is very tiny and I think it'll just distract everybody. But if you want me to try and share it, I can. There's just a lot of colors and a lot of really tiny lines.
and it wouldn't show up on there anyways, on my drawing, if that's what you're talking about.
Okay.
So John, why don't we just say that he's gonna provide as much as he can? If we can get the 20 feet from top of bank, that's what we'll want, Bill. Otherwise, give us what you're proposing, which matches the other. It's just it's different from our typical, but as long as John Mancuso and myself can see it with the description, we should be okay.
Okay.
Let me keep going here. What did you have? You addressed all my comments. I was down to the bald eagle. It looks like you provided the bald eagle screening form. That's
Bill, could you just explain that for
can you review that?
the board's benefit and the other people that are on this?
Oh, the bald eagle.
First time I've seen one of those.
Yeah, it was just a couple months ago that I ran into it for the first time. Previous to that, I would reach out to DEC and Fish and Wildlife when we run into a bald eagle case and ask them for specific input on it. The last time I did that, find his name on here, Tom Wittig from Fish and Wildlife Service sent me the form that you guys have in your packet and said that that's how they are handling them now. It's a self-certification where you go through and answer the questions to you check the boxes. You give some background information, but check the boxes as to what the type of activity that you're doing and what kind of impact you'd have on potential bald eagles, and some mitigating measures. It propagates, tells you what mitigating measures you have to implement, and then you sign and date, and that's apparently the enough for it.
So where is the bald eagle nest? Is there one nearby?
I don't know, but I know that in the seeker, when you fill out the seeker form on the online, when you do it online, it self-propagates answers to certain questions, and that was one of them, that it was potentially in the vicinity of a bald eagle nest. But I don't think DEC releases the actual locations of the nests.
Mm-hmm. There's two in Canisius off the lake over there on the hills. So.
Yeah, but that's
Pretty far away though.
Yeah, but they fly a long ways.
There should just be a box where you can say there is no bald eagle nest within 10 miles.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't know that for sure.
That's not the way it works. Yeah.
Well, Bill, thank you for doing this. I was confused by the form though, because there's one choice. There's an avoidance measure where you maintain a distance buffer of 660 feet. And there's another one that says maintain a distance buffer of 330 feet.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't really give any idea of under what circumstance would you pick one or the other?
Right. Well, luckily we're not within those distances of any known nest. I can tell you that much. In the immediate area around the project site, there's not a nest. So I agree with you. It's a little bit confusing, and like I guess it has to do with the time of year. I can see that now. The 330 feet is a year round for any activities, and the 660 feet is the nesting or the breeding season.
Yeah,
Okay, so you're in the middle of the work and a eagle shows up 320 feet away, you're screwed.
Only if he builds a nest there.
All right. Well, thank you for looking into that.
the next item, the water authority, the questions about potential water, to the site. I know you reached out to the water authority, Bill, and got responses. You can go into that.
Yeah, yep.
Yep.
Tyler did that, and I attached a copy of the email that we got from the Water Authority, as well as a sketch that they provided.
Yeah.
And it essentially says that our property is ineligible, currently ineligible for water service. So there's options, ways to get it where it would be eligible for water service, but all of those are pretty expensive. So we'd like to stick with the drilled well as our water supply.
I know in your packet, I don't know, is there any discussion from the board on that? I think Don was the one that brought that up or wanted to.
Well, how many feet from the last hydrant to your driveway? Do you have any idea how far that is? It doesn't
I believe
seem
it's 400 or 450 feet.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they offered he could do a water extent, he'd have to go through the water extension and everything else,
Yes.
Yeah, the way it works is you have to form a water district to extend that. It's a pretty big deal, isn't it? You start asking other neighbors if they want to connect and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's a process, yep. Mhm.
I just wasn't aware that 400 feet would be so expensive.
Well, it's 400 feet to extend I don't know if it's an 8 or 6 inch main.
Right.
It's an issue. You just don't run a residential pipe, 1-inch pipe off of that. You have to actually do with a commercial line along the road. Anybody else can hook up to it in the future.
Right.
The deck is kind of stacked against you unless you go through a major process and a lot of expense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the water authority wants the applicant to extend it across their whole frontage.
Oh,
The water main,
I see.
Yeah.
not just to
So it would be,
the point of the driveway or wherever the water, or before the driveway where the water service would take off.
Right.
And
right, once we get the main, if we were to get the main extended, we're another 1,000 feet plus or minus of a service to get to the house.
Right.
Mhm.
Close, but not enough.
Great. Next item was, I'll just hit on the seeker, the SHPO. You got the, letter here that said no effect letter, basically, for archaeological and historic. Yep, that was a question. I saw that. I'm trying to think of what else there were some other things, but those were the major items, except I did have a comment on the, this is probably the sketch for the ag data statement. You're supposed to have a tax map with farm operations. What I'm looking at, it just doesn't have the people's, the type of crops and who's around it. I don't know, it's just not filled out. It's kind of a PDF without the information, but I don't know if the board has the packet, they could comment on that. That was just something I noted, but.
It wouldn't be that hard to get what the operators are. I mean, I know myself who's operating ground around there. Bill Chase is working parts, I think Bonds and some of those others on the east side. And I think that Mark Krieger is working the farm that's Greer's.
Okay, but on the map, we do have the tax account numbers.
Yeah, on the map. So
We don't have them on this,
we don't have them on this. It's,
right.
but
What? Oh, that's fine.
that's Larry.
I mean, they're filled out on the ag data statement that I provided. It's the landowner's name, the address, and the tax parcel number, and then it's, that it's a crop farm. I don't know, I guess, I don't know specifically if they're growing beans or corn on it. But that's what it's not a dairy farm and it's not
Right.
beef cattle.
Right. Let me see. Stamp plan, SHPO, we got all that right away. 12-inch culverts, I didn't see any calculations for your driveway culverts, anything on that, or that was the only other thing I kind of had?
Yeah, in the number 13 on the my response letter. So from my calculations, the 12-inch culvert can convey 2 cubic feet per second or 2 acre inches per
Okay.
hour.
Mhm.
It's a lot smaller drainage. Basically, 12-inch pipes are way oversized for the drainage areas that would be running to those. So I wouldn't go any smaller than that. I don't think it makes sense to go smaller than that, but from drainage calculation perspective, we're good.
Okay, yep, I see it. That's all I had, John. The board wants to, you want to go around?
John Morelli,
Yes, sir.
any questions?
No, sir. No, no, everything that I had was answered. Thank you.
Okay, the one thing, Bill, that you may want to check with John Fraser at the Health Department. I emailed John Fraser, and I think I copied you in. He mentioned that it is a realty subdivision, and I don't know what the size of I mean, they're going to approve it, of course, but I don't know what size stamp they require on the Mylar that has to be filed in the county clerk's office. They may have changed them since I was there, but it was like a 3x5 block but I don't know what size. I know you have a block in there. But it has.
I added a block
not for realty.
But not for realty, because I'm still not convinced that it falls under that requirement. The realty subdivision is attractive, decision is attractive land that offered for sale or for rent or lease. Once you get to the 5th residential lot or residential building plot, they're from within any consecutive 3-year period. So the most recent subdivision from the parent parcel was in 98 or 99.
Correct, but the New York State Health Department in the past has made legal determinations that once you create a subdivision, that the 3 lot or the 4 lots over 3 years does not apply any longer. That every additional lot, once you have created a subdivision, has to be filed as a realty subdivision. I mean, the review is basically the same.
Yeah, I understand.
And you're going to file this anyways because of the town of Rush.
Yeah, it does have to go there. And I added the notes of the conditions of approval for realty subdivision on page 2 of the plan. So I guess I'm probably just missing the
approval block.
And I can find a spot for that. Yeah.
Well, you may want to check with John Fraser as to what the size is. They may have changed it since I was there. But okay, Scott.
No, I saw that you've got it written on a couple of places, not approved for building on remaining land. So that's the only question I had.
Okay, Don.
I'm all set.
Amber.
I'm all set. Thank you.
John Mancuso.
My only comment is to confirm, just to make sure I reviewed the deputy clerk's emails correctly. We have a 239M response from the county on Shrevita Temple, but I don't believe we have one for this application. Is that correct, Shelley?
No, we do have one from November.
Right, we read it at the last at the public hearing. In fact, it's in the minutes that I went over it.
Okay, because I saw an email this morning, Shelley, that you said we didn't get a response back because documentation was provided to the county on Friday. Did I misunderstand that email?
Right, when I sent that, and then a minute later, they sent me an email that said, we finished your evaluation and you can get it now.
Yeah, but that was for the temple.
Yes,
We're not talking about the temple.
No.
okay.
Okay, because the email, that statement was in an email for this applicant, not for Shervita. So I probably misunderstood the message then. So we have 239Ms for both of the applicants tonight.
We do.
Okay.
Right, and yeah, the minutes actually have the comments have the comments from the county already in the minutes from last month for this subdivision.
Okay. Then the email was incorrect this morning. Okay, just want to make sure.
And
Amber, you
John,
said
it's
you didn't
Amber.
have anything.
I
Is that
didn't, but
correct, Amber?
I had read it. I'm sorry, I have a bad connection. I'm going to turn my video off real quick. Maybe it'll make it better. My question was the same as Attorney Mancuso, Shelley, that I only saw the one for the temple, not for the 239M for this one. So I just wanted to make sure that we were okay with that. So I'll defer to the town attorney on that and you.
Well, yeah, we did get that at the last meeting and I read it into the minutes. I read it at the public hearing and it got into the minutes that we approved tonight also. Anybody
Okay.
else?
I have no comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any members of the planning board regarding the temple, before we get to the resub of the Gear Farm subdivision? Any discussion on the temple? Larry, you're still here, right? Yes.
I'm still here.
Thank you. Okay. Todd, it sounds like Larry has to provide a lot, an additional information to you.
He's going to provide a full package he's provided pretty much everything. He's going to add some minor things we asked for tonight. So I'm good with everything. If he gets the whole package together, it's just the extra stuff we asked for.
No, I mean, I guess I should have asked that a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Do the board members feel comfortable going ahead with this? We still have to do the seeker, which is going to be a long process. Or do we want to wait until we have the complete package and reviewed by Todd?
Let's have the complete package.
That's my,
John?
I went through this form. I don't know if everyone else has. You're right. It's going to take a while. I found no significant concerns except the fact that because it's going to continue more than 1 year, I don't know what the concern is there, but that was identified on that form as a potential flag. But everything else seems to be reasonable. So we could wait till next time, or we could go through it now. It's many questions that need to be answered. I guess it would depend on the extent to which everyone has had a chance to go through it. I just finished it up as we were starting this meeting.
I think John's referring to part 2 of the seeker environmental impact statement that we have to answer. There's, I think, 10 pages. Is that correct, John?
10 pages, and then, every question that's on those 10 pages refers to a relevant part of number 1, and they're not sequential. So you have to jump around a lot.
They don't make it easy for you, unfortunately.
Right, yeah. But I mean, like I said, you look through there and assuming that the information provided on part 1 is accurate, I found no real significant concerns, but we all need to go through that. So for me, it makes no difference tonight or next time, but I guess I would say if no one's had a chance to look at it, or if everyone hasn't had a chance to look at it, it might be well worth it to wait. I don't know.
Okay, Larry?
I'm here.
Okay, a question. When you completed the long form EAF, there was not attached to that the Environmental Conservation Board environmental mapper. Did you look at that?
I did, in that I have those printed out, but they're also in the seeker. If you're asking about wetlands, they're further north on the creek.
No, I'm asking whether you, as part of filling out and completing the long form EAF or the environmental assessment form, did you also consult or look up or do
they're
the
little-
environmental mapper?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, I didn't get a copy of that with the long form. Maybe I missed it.
Well, I'm kind of old school, John. I filled it out by hand. And
Yeah,
then
I know that.
I went to the mapper and then I clicked on it and got some more information. And then put that in, fill that in the boxes. So I can provide you with that, pages 1 and 2. Or I can tell you what they were. It says it doesn't have digital mapping for special planning districts. I don't think you're in a special planning district. It says it's in the West Erie Canal corridor. Okay. It says there's no mapping available for spills or remediation sites. It says there's no mapping available for spills or remediation. Data is incomplete. It says there is surface water. We know that. There is a floodway. There is a floodplain. There is a 500-year floodplain. And state and historic register digital mapping is not complete. And I guess I'm not aware that there's anything historic anywhere as close. But those were the things that came up.
So the wetlands are off-site.
The wetlands are off-site. They're shown in the SWIP. They're further north up the creek.
Okay, how do the board members want to go through part 2 of the environmental assessment form, which is the 10-page questions regarding the part 1 that was completed by Larry, and we have to answer each question, no or small impact may occur, or moderate to large impact may occur for each of, I don't know how many questions, but there's 10 pages of them.
I could put both of these side by side up on the screen if you like, and we could go through them.
It's either going to be painful tonight or painful in a month.
Well, should we do the other item first if we do go through this with the seeker?
I'm sorry, Scott,
Should we finish up the other item before we go through the seeker of this?
yeah, I think we should. If we're going, well, or if we're not going to go through the seeker and we're going to wait to next month to complete it, it's up to you guys to give me some.
Yep.
I mean, I'm willing to sit here and go through it.
I don't care.
Okay.
I'm here for the duration as well.
Okay,
Doesn't matter.
me too.
Pardon? Don, I'm sorry.
Doesn't matter. If you want to do it, let's go and do it. Let's get it done.
Okay, but let's go on. I think Scott says the other subdivision off of West Henrietta Road, we can go ahead with. And before we get into the seeker for the temple.
Okay.
Okay, any comments? The only thing I think is not missing, but needs to be accomplished is the easement for the short piece of stream or the trip of Honeoye Creek. Were there any other items?
I do not believe so.
And I think Todd, you mentioned that they had answered all of your questions.
We're good.
Pardon?
Yes, we're good.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll make a motion, whereas this board has examined application 2020-13P by Grove Engineering, requesting, I'm sorry, did I say 13P or 14P?
13.
Okay, I got it. That's a correction. I'll start over. I'll make a motion, whereas this board has examined application 2020-14P, requesting a subdivision and site plan approval to subdivide 3 acres from the existing Greer Farm subdivision for the construction of a single-family dwelling. The property is part of parcel tax account 219.02-1-18.011, located at 517 West Rush Road in Rush. And the property is zone R30. In the application by Grove Engineering for preliminary plot review of the proposed, I don't have it in front of me. I'm just going to call it the re-subdivision of the Gear Farm subdivision, being the Hunt, or the Uli and Hunt subdivision, and the remaining lands of the farm that are not approved for building, and that the map and other materials which were filed with the application, including the environmental assessment form. Whereas the proposed action is an unlisted action under the state of New York seeker laws, and whereas this board has referred the application to the Town of Rush Conservation Board for its consideration and recommendation, and whereas the Conservation Board's comments have been addressed, now therefore be resolved that upon its examination and study of the environmental assessment form and the maps and plans submitted with the application, this board determines that the proposed action will not have a significant effect on the environment. The reasons for this determination are that the proposed action cannot reasonably be expected to lead to any of the following consequences. A substantial adverse change to ambient air or water quality or noise levels, or in solid waste production, drainage, erosion, or flooding. B, the removal or destruction of large quantities of vegetation or fauna, the substantial interference with the movement of any residential or migratory fish or wildlife species, impacts on critical habitats, or the substantial affecting of a rare or endangered species of animal or plant or habitat of such a species. C, the encouraging or attracting of a large number of people to a place for more than a few days relative to the number of people who would come to such place absent the action. D, the creation of material conflict with the town's existing plans and goals as officially approved or adopted. E, the impairment of the character or quality of important historical, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources, or of the existing community or neighborhood character. F, a major change in the use of either the quantity or type of energy. G, the creation of hazard to human health or safety. H, a substantial change in the use or the intensity of use of land or other natural resources or their capacity to support existing uses where such a change has been included, referred to, or implicit in the official comprehensive plan, implicit in an official comprehensive plan. I, the creation of material demand for other actions which would result in one of the above consequences. J, changes in two or more elements of the environment, no one of which is substantial, but when taken together result in material change in the environment. And do I have a second?
I have one question. Did we come up with a different address for, rather than 517 West Rush Road? We were gonna get a West Henrietta Road address for this subdivision for the lot?
Yeah, it was in the response letter, but
I don't,
the actual address has been designated.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we have an address for that.
I put a
do
note
we
on
actually have a
plan.
number, Bill?
We don't yet. No, we've got to create the
Okay.
lot before we can get a.
Yeah, I guess the farm, the overall farm is the West Rush Road address. But the new subdivided lot will be off of will have a West Henrietta Road address.
Okay, just want to make sure of that.
Okay, well, we can, if you want to make, I mean, Bill has said that it's going to, and.
Okay,
Okay, do I have a second?
second.
Okay. Shelley, would you poll the board, please?
Member Sweet,
Aye.
Member Strock,
Aye.
Deputy Chair Morelli,
Aye,
Chair Felson.
Aye. I'll make a motion that we grant preliminary approval to application 2020-14P, condition upon the applicant providing the town engineer and town attorney with the proper notarized agreement for the townwide drainage district, and that the applicant provide Todd Ewell, our town engineer, and John Mancuso, the town attorney, with the legal description of the drainage district, and that it be also include and showing on the subdivision plan or a separate map. Let's see, was there anything else? Was there anything else, anybody? Okay. Do I have a second?
second,
Okay. All in favor of granting preliminary approval to the subdivision, please raise their hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The four members present, John Morelli, Scott Strock, and Don Sweet, and John Felson. Shelley approved the motion to grant preliminary approval. I'll also make a motion to waive the final subdivision hearing condition upon the applicant complying with the requirements or conditions for preliminary approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So, Mr. Morelli, if you want to
Yes,
So
sir.
Bill, you you understand it's just the drainage, just our easement that's holding us this up.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready for,
Yeah, I think it would be best if everyone would, if the board members have the environmental assessment form that was completed by Larry. I mean, John's gonna put it up. Can all the board members see the forms?
okay, this is the part one that the applicant filled out. This is part two, the one we need to go through now. It has 18 sections on it in terms of various impacts. So for example, this is the impact on land. It asks, A through H questions. And then in this category here, relevant part one questions, it provides the section in this form where we would go to see how the applicant responded to this question. So this is impact on land. For example, this one is saying the proposed action may involve construction where depth to water table is less than 3 feet. So if we go to section E2D, which is down on page 11 or so, we say E2D, what is the average depth? Let me say E2D, where the depth to water table is less than 3 feet. We see that the average depth of the water table on the project site is 10 plus feet. So in that case, I would say that there's not going to be, well, actually, that
I think, yeah, that's yes.
I had checked them all before, that's why. But that there would be no impact. So we could do this either way. Does everyone have a copy of this form on the left here?
Yeah.
So I will try moving through it to get to each of them as we discuss it. But if you get there first, let us know. So should I just go through them, John?
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay, B, the proposed action may involve.
What? Somebody have a question?
It was me, actually. Before I just wanted to say something before you got started. If you had any question on any of the sub questions or the initial question, and many of you have probably sat through some town board meetings where this has happened, there's a workbook that's very robust that gives some clarifications on each of these questions. So if you need any clarification, I'm happy to read that particular section. And with that, I will turn it back over to the board.
Oh, that'd be helpful. Thank you. Okay, proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater. E2F. Let me get back down to E2. It's page 11. E2F. Okay, this is saying that between 0 and 10% slopes, 98% of the site, between 10 to 15, 1.8. So less than 0.001% of the site is 15% or greater. I would come back here again and check no impact. Should we, I don't know how you're going to proceed in terms of input.
I guess, I don't think we can see each other. Why don't we just go through, does everybody agree or does anybody, let me put it this way, does anybody disagree? Okay, John.
All right, so I'll move through, and if anyone disagrees, just say, wait, stop, okay? Okay. Proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet. 2E2A, the average depth to bedrock is 25 plus feet. I checked no. The proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. That's D2A. So I come back up here to come on. There's D2A. Proposed action involve excavating? No. So I check no. The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year. Well, we've discussed that, but if we go to D1, let's say D1E, it says it will be constructed over a period between 2020 and 2024. So yes, it's over more than a year's period. So to me, I mean, that might be one we want to hear what the robust reading of that issue is, but I mean, we're talking about impact on land, the fact that this is going to continue for more than 1 year. Any thoughts on that? Does everyone?
Well, I think we're looking at the overall site, and we're the town engineer and the board is reviewing the overall site.
Right.
And the grading, the storm drainage, the stormwater pollution prevention plan for the overall site. So I would agree with you that it's either no or small impact.
Okay.
But I don't know, other board members?
Well, this is Scott. I guess my question may get to one of those cases we need more information, because is it in the intention here that if we answer that yes, it will continue for more than 1 year and in multiple phases, that means it's a large impact? Or are we able to say, no, it's a small impact anyway?
Yeah, it's a difficult question. Maybe we could ask John to read the definition of that.
Yep, sure. So under the workbook for this question, it's been identified, will there be an impact? If the project will be completed within 1 year and there's only one phase, there's no impact. That is obviously not what we have here. The small versus moderate to large is characterized as follows. A small impact could be construction that occurs in multiple phases, but the overall level of activity will not be substantially different from a single phase project. Or 2, construction will continue for more than 1 year, but activity will be intermittent. There will be spurts of activity for less than 2 months at a time, perhaps seasonally for 1 or 2 years. A moderate to large impact is defined as construction that occurs over multiple phases over many years. It should be considered long-term.
Well, that sounds like small impact to me.
Yeah, this is Scott again. I'm okay with that, and I think it helps that the retention ponds will be done all up front. That makes that decision a little bit easier.
Yep. Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. F, the proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal, including from treatment by herbicides. It gives us 2 references. D2E is right here. And it says it will disturb more than 1 acre and create stormwater runoff. Gives a description about it, from roof runoff, sidewalk runoff, parking lot runoff, and so on. And if I just jump ahead for a second to D2Q, it talks about there being no pesticides, use pesticides, herbicides during construction or operation. So we need to consider both that and what was the other one? D2E. That says there will be some runoff, but it says stormwater runoff will be directed to on-site SMF. What's that? Small.
Stormwater management facility?
Yes.
So that goes back again to the issue of having that thing in place, those basins in place. Again, I checked no significant no or small impact. Agree?
I agree.
Okay, proposed action is or may be located within a coastal erosion hazard area. I said it's not.
No.
I didn't identify any other impacts at that point. But I went on to geological features. Proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms, cliffs, dunes, mineral fossils, caves. Talks about identify specific landforms, E2G, E. What page are we on? E2G. Are there any unique geologic forms? No. So I said, okay, no. Agree?
Agree.
I gotta
Agree.
turn this off. All right. Why is not letting me do this? Oh, because I had checked it already. And I don't know why it says yes, though. It should be no. That takes everything away.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, if there's something, right?
Yep, if
John,
you've,
John, if you just check no at the top,
Right.
it tells you not to bother checking the small boxes.
correct.
Okay, so, but I mean, I can't turn it. Oh, I can turn it off. Okay, so that's a no.
It's
Yeah,
just
you don't,
it's a no at the top.
All right.
right.
There you go.
If you answer the threshold question, no, you do not need to answer any sub questions. You can move on to the next numbered
Number
question.
3.
Okay, but we want to read what the other questions are, right?
No.
Well, in some circumstances, the sub questions may inform your decision whether to answer yes or no to the threshold question.
So this doesn't exist, so we don't need to.
Exactly. This one is sort of a categorical one that is auto-populated by the mapper. And so I don't think there are any geological features, unique ones in the town of Rush. So it's usually always a no.
Okay. Hey, John, let me just point out something. I don't know if this is going to invalidate our process or not. But on this form, the form that the applicant filled out, it says on there that this form came about in 2019. So I found a part whatever this one is. I don't know why the dates are. Not. This is also 2019. So I got them to the correspond. Apparently it's the same as 2020, but I thought it'd be good to have, I thought there was going to be more coherence between the two, but apparently not.
No.
Okay. Okay, impact on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. So we've said that there's no wetlands on the property. There is adjacent wetlands. We could go through this. Proposed action may create a new water body, increase or decrease of 10% of more of the surface area of any body of water. I don't know if we need to go through these or it's just no.
No.
What do you think?
Just no.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agree.
Impact on groundwater. Okay, so proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants into groundwater. Proposed action may require new water supply wells or create additional demands or supply from existing supply wells. Let's look at D2C.
While you're scrolling, John, I'll also mention if you have any question on the design or engineering that may relate to any of these questions, Todd would also be a resource to request any clarification for this.
Okay. So D2C says, will the proposed action use or create a new demand for water? Yes. And then it says phase something, phase 1, 30 gallons per day. Total anticipated water usage, 640 gallons per day. From Monroe County Water Authority, currently a customer. And so that didn't look substantial to me, so I would say no. Any
No.
other thoughts? Okay. Water supply demand from proposed action may exceed safe and sustainable. No. Same issue. Proposed action may allow or result in residential uses in areas without water. No. Proposed action may include or require wastewater discharge to groundwater. We have septic systems there, right?
Correct.
Right. Proposed action may result in the construction of water supply wells. We don't need that, correct?
No.
Proposed action may require bulk storage of petroleum or chemical products over an aquifer, over groundwater aquifer. I didn't see that. Proposed action may involve commercial application of pesticides within 100 feet of potable drinking water irrigation sources. So I didn't see any of that, so I checked no for the whole thing. Impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development of lands subject to flooding. See Part 1E2 again. E is down on page 11, right?
Yep, right there.
E2, okay.
Scroll down at the end. Right there. Yep.
Okay, so the question is subject to flooding. Is the project site in a floodway, designated floodway? Yes. Is the project site in a 100-year floodplain? Yes. Is the project in a 500-year floodplain? Yes. Is the project located over immediately adjoining primary principal or a sole source aquifer? No. What were we trying to find out here? Impact of flooding. I had no. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
You had no at the beginning.
I had no at the beginning, correct.
Okay.
So all of those. Impact on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. I didn't go any further than that. I said no. Do you all agree?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I agree with no.
All right, correct. Okay, impact on plants or animals. Proposed action may result in the loss of flora or fauna. Again, no or small impact, I thought. Agreed?
Agree.
Okay, impact on agricultural resources. Again, I said no impact. None of it's in agriculture, correct?
Agree.
Right, it's adjacent to.
It's adjacent to.
Yeah, and I don't believe it's in an ag district either.
Okay. Aesthetic resources. Okay, so the land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. So we could look through this. This is, partly individual preferences. 3E3H. Is the project site within 5 miles of any officially designated accessible federal, state, or local scenic or aesthetic resource? Now this says yes, oh, the Genesee River. Okay, but the impact on the Genesee River would be small, if any, or none.
Well, the river is not visible from that property anyway, so
Right,
I think this is saying that if you looked through the property, could you see the river? And the answer is no.
no, so it's probably true going and looking in the other direction as well. So,
Right.
okay, proposed action may result in the obstruction, elimination of significant screening for one or more officially designated scenic views. Again, no. Proposed action may be visible from publicly accessible vantage points, seasonally screened by summer foliage, but visible during other seasons or year round. Well, I don't know, from, let's see what it says here, 3H, it's the same thing. Do we need more definition on this, or?
I think it is little impact.
Okay,
I thought you answered the overall. Number 9 is no.
okay.
No,
Yeah, so-
after the,
I had no for all of number 9, but I was going through it in case there was any concerns.
okay.
Yeah, so the threshold on this one is sort of a question regarding whether a scenic resource exists. Doesn't necessarily mean there's any impact associated with that resource. And so the board could determine there is no scenic resource that's in and check no. Alternatively, and the board sort of is walking through the questions now. If it answered yes, because the Genesee River was flagged on part 1, it could also find, it doesn't mean there's a moderate to large. It could also check no or small with regards to any of the sub questions as well. So those options do exist. If you need any question on the workbook, I'm happy to give some clarification on that too.
Well, one of the things I thought was significant is with that first part that you look at, it's really talking about specific scenic or aesthetic resources. It sounds like defined. I mean,
Correct.
if I'm talking about a neighbor's house.
No.
That's not included in that grouping.
Correct. This is a more this is a more focused question on specific, as you described, John, specific scenic or aesthetic resources that are identified by New York State DEC. More broader of a question is impact on community character. That would be a more general proposition. Doesn't necessarily need to be a scenic resource. It could be the neighborhood or the surrounding community, which is later on in the form.
All right. Question 10, impact on historic and archaeological resources. And again, it asks whether there are any substantially contiguous, whether it's next to or including any buildings, archaeological site or district. If we look at 3EC, it says no, that there are no substantially contiguous registered national landmarks. So I click no. Impact on open space and recreation. Proposed action may result in the loss of recreational opportunities or reduction of open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. I click no on that. We could go through it if anyone is interested in taking it further. We'll move on. Impact on critical environmental areas. Proposed action may be located within or adjacent to critical environmental areas. E3D, it checks no that it's not. So I check no that it's not. Impact on transportation. Now, Don did raise a question regarding buses and so on and so forth. Projected traffic increase. I don't know, did we really discuss that at some point? I know we did. But the initial plan is to continue serving the same the same folks, or there will be more attracted, obviously, if it's a more substantial and interesting place to go. But again, I don't know if there's anything that would be identified as a moderate to large impact. How would you like to proceed with this one? No?
No.
Okay. Impact on energy. Proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. Again, are we talking about a moderate to large impact or a small impact? And I assume that it would be a small impact since it's a similar use to its existing function. Agreed?
Agreed.
John, if it's a small impact, you would check yes to that box, and then you go through that first column over there.
Oh, really?
Yes. So the gateway question is no impact whatsoever. It's not applicable, or there is no discernible impact at all.
Oh, did I skip any up there that I should have up above?
It's up to the board. A lot of those questions, there are some that are black and white, like a critical environmental area. Others are largely within the discretion of the board to decide whether you feel there is some impact that's worthy of further exploration on the sub-questions. So really leave it entirely to your board, John.
Impact on transportation, well, there might be some.
Yeah, I suppose that there would be some increase or may increase to the capacity of the existing road network.
Right.
There are only there's certain days though. There's certain,
right.
It's not like all the time. It's like there's certain holiday or their festival.
Small.
I would add too that the amount of extra attendance probably is represented by the increase in parking spaces, right? So there's an indication of what that might be.
All right, so can we say yes and small?
I would agree with that.
I agree.
Yeah, this is number 13. I want to quickly go back after we're done through those other ones to make sure we didn't.
Okay, John, you did check other impacts and you don't have anything, Larry speaking, but if you remember, we did a traffic study back in 2015 on a Saturday, which is their holy day. And there was basically no impact. But I guess I agree that there will be a slight increase in traffic with a bigger facility.
Well, when you get all this marble coming from India, I'm coming there, so that's at least one more person.
They are carving pieces right now.
Yeah. All right. Impact on noise, odor, and light. Proposed action may result in an increase in noise.
Oh, wait a minute. Let's go back. 13, did we answer yes or no to the overall question?
You said yes.
Yes.
Oh, and then you answered no to all the other, or no or small. Okay.
No.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Gotcha.
was just questioning the other impact. You have a check mark there. I guess that's what you have to probably.
Yeah, and you notice the 1.3B, it talks about 500 or more vehicles. So I don't think we're at that threshold.
Right.
No, you're not. And I don't think we're ever going to exceed the capacity of a county highway. So yeah, it's all, that's.
Okay, and there's some others above, like, when we went to, well, we'll go back up quickly after we get through the rest of these. So impact on noise, odor, and light. Proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by local regulation. What did we say? D2M. So we are at D2. M. Will the proposed action produce noise? It says yes. Exceeding existing ambient noise levels during construction. Yes, that's true. It says here between 7:30 and 4:30. Okay, that was one of the, that's the only one. So yes, during construction, no blasting, probably no routine odors, light
If I
shining.
remember correctly, in the 2015 application, we talked about some outdoor ceremonies that were quite specific. I presume the temple itself being improved will not change that.
Well, my understanding was that that it would, that the dances and a lot of the ceremonies would be able to be conducted indoors now,
It'll be
because
inside.
the larger facility.
Okay.
Okay, so again, I'll put yes, because there are some temporary noises during construction. But if I can check these all as no.
Nope.
Impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contamination. I put no. But what do you think? No?
I'm just going through them fast.
Excuse me? Okay,
I agree with you.
okay.
Yeah.
Consistency with community plan. Proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. Well, it's a permitted special permit operation, allowed in the town, allowed where it is, correct?
Yep.
So I would say there's no issue.
Agree.
And consistency with community character. Proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. And the questions say the proposed action may replace or eliminate existing facilities, structures, or areas of historic importance. That's a no. May create a demand for additional community services. Probably not really, or not significantly. The proposed action may displace affordable or low-income housing. No. Proposed action may interfere with the use or enjoyment of officially recognized public resources. No. Proposed action is inconsistent with the predominant architectural scale and character. I don't know what that means. Of the town, of the neighborhood, of the community. Is this an issue to be looked at further?
Would you like me to read what the workbook says? And
Sure.
I could scroll, bear with me. This is community character 18 sub question
E.
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 Okay. Sub question E. The proposed action is inconsistent with predominant architectural scale. Predominant architectural scale and character need to be defined locally. They are determined through understanding the size, height, dimensions, and intensity of uses as they already exist in the neighborhood or community. Actions inconsistent with the predominant architectural scale and character of the area could include those that result in a structure or landscape that is in sharp contrast to that which currently exists. A new structure that is larger, taller, or of different architectural style could be inconsistent with the existing character. Changes in color scheme, window and door configuration, roof style, setback from the street, or style of signs and accessory structures can all result in adverse impacts to community character. So the analysis to describe the current predominant architectural scale and character, this can be defined by size, height, setback, site layout common to existing structures in the area. It's also defined by architectural details like building materials, facade color, window and door treatments, presence of architectural fenestration and details, signage and location of the parking lot. So you look at the architectural scale and character of the new structures and how they differ from the existing ones.
So if we talk about other places in Rush that are constructed out of hand-carved marble, probably not too many. But if we look overall at places of worship in Rush, in terms of size and character, I think it's pretty consistent. Yes, no?
This is a tough one for me. It's not that I object to it. I think it's going to look beautiful, but it is substantially closer to the road and quite a bit larger than what's there now. Like I say, I don't know that that's a problem, but I don't know what the ramifications are of saying moderate to large impact may occur.
Do you want me to kind of work through that question, Scott? I'm happy to kind of provide some elaboration on that.
Okay.
So part two is sort of a gateway mechanism to identify the magnitude of potential impacts. So you're no small, moderate to large. These are sort of, scales of magnitude. With respect to a question like this, just because you answer yes to a particular question, even just because you answer moderate to large, doesn't necessarily mean that equates to a significant adverse impact. That's what part three is designed to do. So basically, if you identify something that is moderate to large, the board would then need to sort of elaborate and discuss amongst itself whether that moderate to large impact is a significant and adverse impact. There are many moderate to large impacts that may not be significant or adverse depending on the way the project is designed, the overall relationship of that impact to the surrounding community, to the project site. Things of that nature. So it doesn't necessarily trigger, a particular result in the part three. It's really a function of, does the board feel like any one of these particular questions, just based on the magnitude of the answer of the question that's posed, do you feel like it's no impact, a small impact, or a moderate one? And then you can certainly elaborate further and explore those issues, and I can give you more information on when the part three comes around if necessary.
This is Larry. I want to jump in. The building is 180 feet setback from the northbound lane of East River Road. I think the elevation of the building itself is maybe 18 feet. It has a flat roof. There are the turrets, if you will, or the steeples. The largest steeple, the main steeple, is at the east side, and that is 380 feet from East River Road, so over a football field. And that was looked at in the Zoning Board of Appeals. I actually went out and did a balloon test and had a balloon up in the air. And I know, John, you remember that, of a little balloon way off in the trees. So the inconsistent predominant architectural scale and character is funny, because the buildings you're looking at now is a very modest 1950s ranch house and a bunch of pole barns. So it's not like we're looking at St. Bernard Seminary. I mean, the current character of the site is pretty punk architecturally.
John Mancuso,
Yes.
I'm assuming that the Zoning Board of Appeals had to go through this process also?
Yes, that's correct. They went through this process. They adopted a negative declaration with respect to the variance for the height.
Okay, how you recall how they answered that question? Or did they-
I can pull that up for you if you give me 1 minute. Let me.
So
Because I mean, they were dealing with the height.
The height and scale. John, I'm not sure if I did a long form for the ZBA,
I
but
believe
maybe
you
I
did. I believe you did a short form. I recall that one of the questions, they combined these 18 into more broader categories in the short form process, but let me pull up the negative
Okay.
declaration and I can see if there is anything that is relevant to this discussion.
But isn't any church that we have approved in Rush I don't think we ever went through this before, but any church that we approved in Rush probably met the same, or was, the proposed action was inconsistent with the predominant architectural scale and character.
I would agree with that. And the other thing that I'm concerned about is this, the use of the word community. I don't know what that means. You know, we talk about things like the neighborhood meeting that specific area. I don't know if the community means the town or that particular neighborhood, but if we are thinking about the town, then, you know, I have the same comment with regard to other places of worship being of similar dimensions or height or magnitude and so on.
If I can add here, I don't know how many of you are familiar with over at McQuaid at Clinton and Elmwood, on the northwest corner of that intersection for probably 20 years was some kind of an office building that Brighton referred to as the Silver Bullet. It's now a Walgreens.
Right.
But it was a very shiny Miami Vice-y silver round building with blue accents. I remember the developer, and he wanted to bring in something cool to upstate New York. At that time, Brighton did not have an architectural review board. So after it was built, all holy hell broke loose. Is how could that have ever been approved? That would be, anyway, now they have an architectural review board because of that specific building. And it's, so that in my opinion would be architectural scale and character that's inconsistent with the community.
Well, okay, but this is another town. I mean, I think
but it's all the same place.
The discussion regarding the what's there now is significant in that, and when you're placing pole barns and a house with a, you know, an architecturally significant structure.
Right.
There is a definition in the workbook in terms of, John, the question you posed, what is the community?
Right.
The workbook describes community as all the man-made and natural features of the area. It includes the visual character of the town and its visual landscape. It also includes the buildings and structures and their uses, the environment, activities, town services, and local policies that are in place. These combine to create a sense of place or character that defines an area.
All right, so I would say then that it's consistent with certainly other similar buildings, you know, places of worship. Anyway, so we can indicate no or a small impact or no impact, or what do you all think?
No impact. It's not much different than the Methodist church with a steeple or the Catholic church, Korean church. They're all have architectural differences that other buildings don't have.
I think it's, I wouldn't say no, but I would, well, I'd say a small impact, maybe.
Would you be all with that, Scott?
I wish there were a place we could record our comments here and saying why we're saying it's no, and that's because it's not substantially different than other.
But if we say yes, and
You say yes, it's a small impact then, because
Scott, if you, to your question that you just posed, if you want to elaborate on any particular question, the part 3 would be where the planning board can do that. So you could say something along the lines of what you just described. If the community character was checked yes, but you felt it was a no or small impact because you felt as if it was consistent with other religious places of worship within the town of Rush, that is certainly a rational conclusion to draw, and something similar to what the zoning board actually did when it adopted its negative declaration. It pointed, because it was talking about height, it was a little more focused, but it pointed to St. Joseph's Church as something comparable in terms of the steeples.
That comment would apply whether we mark this yes or no, right? So you could still comment that way?
Sure, you can comment at your discretion, Scott.
Well, here's my baseline concern. If we went through this and marked everything no, every major category, people would look at it and say, well, they just wanted to get through it and didn't really care. So if we can flag some of the more possibly controversial items and explain why we decided that, it would be better.
Right. All right, so now if I'd like to go back to some of the earlier ones and just check out the, what do you call them, gateway questions? John explained it, I didn't get it the first time.
So the gateway question is the text that's right under the numbered bold heading.
Right. Well, I know where it is. I just didn't
Yeah.
understand what you were saying about it. So, for example,
Okay, can we, did we finish the last
Yes.
18?
Yeah, that's the bottom.
Okay. Okay, we said yes
Yes.
and no, or
I think you
I
said
don't know if
yes and
Scott
no to
agrees
small
with-
for all of them.
does Scott agree with E?
Yes, that's fine.
Yes.
Okay,
with
and we're
the caveat that we'll be
comment
able to
on-
explain it. I agree with that too. Okay, so let's go back up to, what was it, question 12, I think. That's where we left off. Impact on critical environmental areas. So we decided there was none, so we checked it no.
Correct.
Same thing, open spaces and recreation, again. Historic and archaeological, again, there are none. Aesthetic resources. This was, we were talking about specific scenic or aesthetic resources. We said, well, there's the Genesee was identified, but is there any impact? Is that something we would consider a small impact or none?
I would say it's no impact, as it doesn't obstruct anybody's view of the Genesee River.
Okay. Impact on agricultural resources. Again, there's no agriculture on that property. Impact on plants and animals.
There's no eagles over there.
But I mean, if you're basically, you're expanding a building, is there concern?
Well, how tall's the steeple? Might an eagle nest there?
There you go.
It might attract them.
So,
Osprey.
so leave it? No?
Yeah.
Impact on air? No. Flooding? No.
Well, let me talk about flooding, because there was talk about it being, the project being in a flood zone, right?
Yeah.
But in
Well,
fact,
the overall land, yeah.
right, and that's the distinction. The construction is not in the flood zone, it's just the land is, a property that's sitting on.
So the construction could contribute to it, and with respect to roof runoff, parking lot. Parking lot's gravel though, right? I forgot. Was
The parking lot will be asphalt. But the total flow out that 12-inch pipe is about 2 cubic feet per second. It's the runoff after development is 75% of what goes down to the creek today. It's been substantially mitigated.
Okay, maybe
So
John
we're not
Mancuso.
We're not developing in the floodplain,
Okay, but
and our runoff has been substantially mitigated.
That might be something else worth mentioning in section 3.
well, okay, but John Mancuso, the
Yes.
proposed action may result in development on lands subject to flooding. Does the workbook said that the actual construction has to be in the floodplain or floodway or flood zone or
So, and I'm scrolling to that question.
it's number
let me-
5, impact on flooding.
Right.
Okay.
A,
While John's doing that, back many years in my career, I did several projects in Henrietta. One was Dorsal Lexus, where we had to relocate a stream. And we actually had to calculate the volume of floodway that was being filled, and then create equal volume elsewhere on the Dorsal Lexus site. So there is no difference in the water surface elevation when we left the property line. So that would be the example of development in a floodway, development in a 100-year floodplain. But it was mitigated through the design.
Yeah, but you're not touching.
No, we're 30 feet above it.
No, I know.
So in my opinion, this is a no.
okay.
I know,
well,
but I'm gonna
we're
ask
doing-
John Mancuso.
Yeah. But
And Todd
I don't
also,
count.
Todd also, if you have any input, but the question is really targeting whether the proposed action, which is the development of this facility, if that is going to result in development on lands that are subject to flooding. So what are the lands that are subject to the flooding? My understanding, and Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, is the lands that are actually in the floodplain are located on a different portion of the overall property than the project site itself.
Right. So Larry, your building does not experience flooding where you're going to place it and enlarge it currently.
No.
And
No.
you're actually filling it, you're raising a little bit. So
yeah, part of the just interest is the new finished floor of the new temple has to be equal to or higher than the existing temple. And that is how we've set the finished floor where we have. But we are basically on the front lawn. You can go out and play soccer on the front lawn if you want to. It's
Okay.
grass.
All right, let's continue. All right, so we'll leave that as a no. Impact on groundwater. There will be discharge, there'll be septic system, correct?
Yes,
Larger population, is this a small, no or small impact or what?
yes, if it's, because it's going to be, I suppose we could add that in 3, but no, I think it's no, because it's going to be reviewed and approved and meet the standards of the state health department or New York State DEC and the local health department.
Oh, okay. But you don't think that's will result in an impact?
Yes, but I think it's going to be small impact due to
Really?
it
So that's what I'm asking.
being constructed to
Should it be,
wastewater standards.
should
The
it be
system is
yes?
being
and no,
constructed.
no, or small? What I'm asking is should this be no up here?
Oh, I had yes there. I'm sorry.
Yes, okay, and then no,
And
no.
then all no's, yes.
Yeah, okay, correct. All right. Impact on surface water. Nope.
So they are discharging to a stream, but it's mitigated through the SWIP. So, you could go either way on that one, but it's,
Yeah, our discharge is less than what
yeah. So,
This discharge is less than it was? Then is
no,
less than what? I'm sorry.
Got 3 retention ponds that are slowing things down and then reverting in a different direction.
Okay. Impact on geological features? No.
No.
And impact on land?
Should be yes.
Here we said yes, and then no, 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 no.
Yep.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay, so. Well,
John, could you
yes,
retrieve John Morelli? Could
yes,
you retrieve part 3 of the full environmental assessment form and put it on the screen in place of the, in place of the EAF,
yeah.
since we have part 2 here, and I don't know if you can get all, it's going to be a little crowded to get all 3 on.
All right. Three. Full assessment form, part 3. Okay. Well, let me stick it, where do you want it? Over here or over here?
You could probably shrink part 1 because part 2 and 3 are going to be your more.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay, so this is part 3, evaluation of the magnitude and importance of project impacts and determination of significance. And what do we want to look at here, John?
which John?
John who asked for this? John Felsen. Right?
I asked for it because Scott wanted to add something to, well, it's an unlisted, oh, go up to the,
Okay.
This is Scott. There's 4 areas perhaps that might be worth commenting on. One is construction is not in the floodplain, even though parts of the property include floodplains. The other one was, as John mentioned, the waste discharge through a private system is approved by the Monroe County Department of Health. Third one is discharges to the stream will be less than the current or prior state. And fourth is a characteristic of the neighborhood, not different than other places of worship in the town. So if there's anything worth mentioning, I think it will be those 4 things.
So John Mancuso, so on this form, here's a section, upon review of the information, as noted, plus this additional support information, we could fill in here.
You'd actually fill it in under the first page. That big, there's a big
this
section,
big
right?
project?
Yeah, right there. So basically, this is your reason supporting your determination. You can elaborate to your, at your discretion in terms of the comments that Scott has made. If you wish to provide additional analysis as to why those particular impacts are not significant.
And when do we do this part 3?
There's a couple of different ways to do it. You could fill it in now, or you can evaluate the part 2 questions and draft a proposed part 3 response and come back and adopt it at a later meeting. Similar to the resolutions that you prepare. This would be part and parcel of that process. You would simply adopt this part 3 with the additional explanations as you're doing your seeker determination of significance.
Okay, John Felsen, how do you want to proceed? Should we attack
well,
this?
we can get, if Scott wants to, if you can type, John, I don't mean that to be. Or.
Okay.
If Scott wants to, do you want to refer to you probably should refer to the item.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, which I don't have.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't smart enough to write down the items as I put this
So
list.
there were, tell me the.
So the order may change. We probably got to put them in the order that they appear, but the first one was construction. Even though there are floodplains on the property, construction is not in those.
Impact on flooding. Is that?
Well, the first one was impact on groundwater, number 4.
Okay.
And it was for, what was it? 4D. Proposed action may include or require wastewater discharge to groundwater.
Yeah, that's the one.
Was that the one, Scott?
That's one of them. That would be, that's the waste discharge from the private sanitary system will be approved by the Department of Health, right? So that would be
Okay, that
4D.
was D,
4D.
4D, this right here.
Yes.
Oh, I guess I can't copy it. Oh, that's too bad. All right. Impact on groundwater. Okay, what do we want to say?
That the impact will be, impact may occur, or a small impact may occur, but the discharge from the wastewater treatment system will meet Monroe County Department of Public Health standards for construction. Is that okay, Scott, or?
Well, it's fine, yeah.
I'm glad you can see
Monroe
that.
County, what?
Department of Health.
Monroe County Department of Public Health.
Okay,
Okay.
what was the next one?
I guess it's number 5, right? Flood, impact on flooding?
I think so. So it talks about,
Okay,
well, it doesn't,
Well, I guess we're saying,
maybe just,
although the overall lands where the overall parcel includes a flood way in 100-year and 500-year floodplain, there'll be no development or construction within the floodway or floodplains, and that the existing, or that the proposed drainage from the development will be less, or the discharge from the proposed development will be less than the current overland flow to the stream.
and is that because of the retention ponds?
Yes. Well,
John
maybe
Morelli,
partially.
you might want to say the overall property as opposed to overall project.
right,
okay, our parcel. Yeah.
thank you. Then 100-year and 500-year floodplain. The actual construction will not occur in these areas, and the discharge, the
Site runoff.
Site runoff, okay.
will be attenuated by,
Mitigated.
mitigated by.
Well, I would say, yeah, the runoff will be appropriately managed by the stormwater facilities designed as part of the project.
Okay,
All right, Scott, what's next?
The other last one, because we combined the two, right? So the last one would be the character of the neighborhood, not being different than other houses of worship.
Number 18, I believe.
Yes.
consistency, right. I can't, it's so small on the screen, I can't see what I'm.
Yeah. So it's actually 18E, I believe.
Okay, so,
Right, the proposed action is inconsistent
Let me put.
with the predominant architectural scale and character.
E is, uh, regarding community E.
You might want to say that this is a religious,
House of worship.
religious house of worship. And Mancuso being the lawyer, being a religious being a house of worship, the architectural style, the architecture is different than residential upstate New York residential architecture.
I think the point I will defer to the planning board how they want to characterize it, but I think the point you're making, Larry, is that religious institutions have a certain architectural style that varies from residential development.
Yes, if I go down Main Street Rush, you either have the old mercantile buildings, or right next to St. Joseph's, you have a very handsome Victorian with a porch. I've taken pictures of it.
Well, we're not going to put that in the comment.
No, but I'm just saying that you either have the mercantile, which is a box, or you have a handsome, some very handsome, and right around the corner from St. Joe's is another church, and right across the street is another very attractive building.
Is this where we say at least it's better than the Silver Bullet in Brighton?
Yes, it's much better. And then you have the old Rush Schoolhouse.
I think Don said earlier in the meeting, he was sort of equating the character of the architectural style of this building to be consistent with other religious institutions in the town. I think
you could add that in.
Yes.
Can I just say this?
Yeah, it sounds.
Proposed action is consistent with the predominant architectural scale and character of other houses of worship in this town.
That's fine.
Yep.
Okay.
That's good. I feel good about adding those comments.
Yeah, all right. So now, this form, I think it only needs to be signed or something, right? Everything else is filled, it's all filled out to the very end.
Yep.
Doesn't even have a place for a signature.
I don't believe it does.
Excuse me?
I don't believe it has a signature on part 2. I think part 3 would be where the signature
Part
is.
3, determination. This is a, what did we say?
Unlisted action.
Unlisted.
All 3 parts have been
all
prepared.
3 parts. Check. Yeah.
Yep.
On review of the information recorded as noted, plus additional support information, and considering both the magnitude and importance of each, is the conclusion of the
Planning board.
Town of Rush Planning Board.
as lead agency that this project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment. Therefore, environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, this negative declaration is issued. This one says, although the project could have significant adverse impact, that impact will be avoided, substantially mitigated because of the following conditions, which will be required by the lead agency. Do we leave that blank, or do we?
So so because this is an unlisted action, you actually have 3 choices. You could either decide that the project as designed has no significant adverse impact, which is box A. Box B is a conditioned negative declaration. So you are saying there will be no impact because you are imposing mitigation measures on the applicant.
That would be beyond what's already designed in the,
Correct. So for example, let's say this was this was a different project. It was a facility with substantial traffic, and you imposed a condition that said, you know, these are your hours of operation. This is going to be how you design the parking lot, the traffic circulation, you know, things that you were imposing as conditions rather than the applicant committing to them.
Well, then
C.
Yep.
Was that?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then C is your last option. That's a positive declaration because you have identified one or more potential significant adverse impacts that require further study through an environmental impact statement.
Okay, so again, you know, I love it. They use the word significant here. They don't use small, medium, or large, but whatever.
I
Okay.
do not.
Down here, so we don't have to fill out any of this, right?
You would fill you would fill out the boilerplate down there, which is just
This stuff?
right where you were name of action. This would just be this is ministerial, so you can identify it. I think it'd be Shrivita Temple. What have you labeled the?
Well, there's a subdivision and a site plan approval. If that's what you're.
Yeah, you would just identify it so you know what you know what this pertains to.
All right, so what goes in here?
Sri Vidya Temple,
SRI,
capital VIDYA. Sri Vidya Temple
site plan,
subdivision and site plan.
approval or just blank or just that?
I think that's sufficient. The lead agency is the town planning board.
John Felsen,
Yep.
you have a middle initial, John?
A,
A?
yeah.
What, what are you again, chair?
So then he would sign that document there. So the form is complete. It looks like, and I want to open it back up to confirm the negative declaration on A. If that's the decision that the board wishes to proceed in, then what I would say, and John Felsen, I know you have resolutions that you prepared that contain sort of more of the kind of nuts and bolts of the process. These forms can be sort of incorporated into that resolution, so you can essentially have the planning board adopt the findings as set forth in the part 2 and the part 3 that you've prepared this evening. And otherwise, much of your resolution probably is I would think appropriate for the project. So I certainly don't want to, if you feel it necessary to go through that process, then we could just kind of incorporate maybe another sentence into it.
Into the unlisted motion?
Yeah, you probably have a motion for the unlisted action to adopt a determination of significance under seeker.
Well, I just had the generic one that I read for the other project.
Right. Do you want to use that as a guidepost to craft something for this project, and then we can you can add a clause in there that to approve these forms that the planning board completed?
Okay. Look, I could try it. I'll make a motion, whereas this board has examined application number 2020-13P by Sri Vidya Temple requesting subdivision and site plan approval for the construction of a new 28,986 square foot temple. The property is located at 6980 East River Road in Rush, and the property is zoned R30. And whereas the planning board has completed the full environmental assessment for part 2 identifying any potential environmental impacts, and whereas the board has completed the environmental assessment form part 3 and examine the maps and other materials which were filed with the application, including which were filed with the application. Whereas the proposed action is an unlisted action under the state of New York seeker laws, and whereas this board has referred the application to the Town of Rush Conservation Board for its consideration and recommendation, whereas the Conservation Board's comments have been addressed, now therefore it be resolved that upon its examination and study of the environmental assessment forms, part 1, part 2, and part 3, and the maps and plans submitted with the application, the board determines that the proposed action will not have a significant effect on the environment. The reasons for this determination are that the proposed action cannot reasonably be expected to lead to any of the following consequences. A substantial adverse change to ambient air or water quality or noise levels, or in the solid waste production, drainage, erosion, or flooding. B, the removal or destruction of large quantities of vegetation or fauna. The substantial interference with the movement of any resident or migratory fish or wildlife species, impacts on critical habitat areas, or substantial affecting of a rare or endangered species of animal or plant or habitat of such species. C, encouraging or attracting a large number of people to a place for more than a few days relative to the number of people who would come to such place absent of the action. D, the creation of a material conflict with the town's existing plans or goals as officially approved or adopted. E, the impairment of the character or quality of important historical, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources, or of the existing community or neighborhood character. F, a major change in the use of either the quantity or type of energy. G, the creation of a hazard to human health or safety. H, a substantial change in the use or intensity of use of land or other natural resources, or in their capacity to support existing uses where such change has been included, referred to, or implicit in the official comprehensive plan. I, the creation of material demand for other actions which would result in one of the above consequences. J, changes to 2 or more elements of the environment, no one of which is substantial, but when taken together result in a material change in the environment. Do I have a second?
If I can make one additional comment on an additional be it resolved suggestion that the additional grounds supporting the planning board's issuance of a negative declaration are set forth in the part 3 of the environmental assessment form, just to pick up the comments from Scott. And then a further be it resolved that the chair of the planning board is authorized to execute part 3 of the full environmental assessment form.
Okay, where should that go in the motion?
Right at the end, right after everything you read.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? No, I'm sorry. Shelley, would you please read the roll?
Member Sweet,
Sweet. Aye.
Member Strock,
Aye.
Deputy Chair Morelli,
Aye.
Chair Felsen.
Aye. I'll make a motion to grant preliminary approval, preliminary subdivision approval to application 2020-14P, conditioned upon the applicant complying with the requirements of the town engineer, the Monroe County Department of Planning and Development, and the necessary revisions, and I don't think there is any revisions to the subdivision. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'll make a motion to waive the final subdivision approval for application 2020-14P upon the applicant complying with the conditions for preliminary approval.
Exactly. மார்ச்சுக்கு நாங்கள் கோவிட்டோ என்ன இருந்தோ கிண்டியே ஆகணுமையா.
Second.
I guess I did that, but this is sort of strange. But that's the subdivision, because we do have approval from the Monroe County Department of Public Health and the town engineer, but I think that is more regarding the site plan. Is that true, Todd? Okay.
Yes. Yep. That's
Oh, there
correct.
you are.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to grant site plan approval to application number, and I think I did a bunch of these at 14P and it's 13P. 2020-13P. For site plan approval for the construction of a new 28,986 square foot temple consisting of phase one, or no, I'm not going to put phase one because we're doing the overall. That the property is located at 6980 East River Road in Rush, and that is conditioned upon the applicant supplying the town engineer and the board with additional plans showing the phasing of the three phases of the project, the labeling of the dumpster area or the waste disposal area, and showing and referencing what the outside doors or structure that is going to the enclosure of the dumpster area or waste disposal area. The applicant showing on the plans the overall construction of the stormwater system, including I believe there's 4 ponds or 3 ponds? 3 ponds. The north, the west, and the south pond. That the applicant comply with the town engineer's comments and obtain the town engineer's approval, that the applicant provide the legal description for the proposed drainage easement to the town of Rush, townwide drainage easement, and that proposed easement with a legal description of the meets and bounds be shown on the plans, and that the townwide drainage district agreement be completed by the applicant and notarized and submitted to the town for review and approval by the town engineer and the town attorney. That the applicant, if I haven't said this already, obtain the approval of the Monroe County Department of Public Health for the wastewater disposal system and any possible backflow prevention that may be required by the county health department or Department of Public Health. Was there anything else that?
I don't have anything.
There's probably something else that I left out. Remember, Todd?
It's just an overall comprehensive set. He's going to incorporate everything we discussed tonight and the items he's submitted over the past week, I guess, that came in a little later.
I'm sorry, Todd, could you talk up?
Yeah, he's going to submit a comprehensive set with his final submittal for the site development with all.
Okay, that the applicant submit a comprehensive overall site of everything that he is proposing in the phases. Anything else, Todd, or? Well, you're gonna have to review all that and approve it, but
Yep, no, I'm good.
I did say approval by the town of Rush Town engineer also
Yep.
for the plans.
Right.
As a condition of our approval.
Got all that, Shelley?
Well,
Get it recorded.
and Larry, where is Larry? Is there any approvals needed?
I'm here.
Needed by the Monroe County Water Authority?
No.
Well,
If
you're
we,
changing, okay.
I mean, if I need one, I'll get one, but everything
Okay,
we're doing,
I'll make it simple, that the applicant, obtain any approval that is required by the Monroe County Water Authority.
that's fine. Or any involved agencies.
Oh, yeah,
That's fine.
okay. Anything else, planning board members? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Shelley, would you poll the board, please?
Member Sweet,
Aye.
Member Strack,
Aye.
Deputy Chair Morelli,
Aye.
Chair Felson.
Aye. Okay. So that ends our meeting tonight, and it's up to Larry to get those 500 sheets done
So,
and all of the additional information that is going to be required of Todd, by Todd.
Okay, that's
Do
not
you
a
have
problem
any-
at all.
Do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you very much
You want
for
to say?
flogging
Yeah.
through this. I do want to add that my wife was, now that we're Zooming from home, my wife was wondering what takes so long. Because she thought every time I went down to Rush, that the meeting only lasted 10 minutes and then we were down at the creekside having wings and beer.
Somehow, Larry, I think your wife knows why it takes so long. You want me to say it?
No.
I won't say it. But
I have,
Thank you all. We really appreciate all your board members' help. Thank
KK,
you so
you're
much.
welcome.
Yeah, it was a
Thank you.
huge effort and thank you so much all.
you're very welcome.
You're welcome.
It's worked really hard today, especially long hours. Really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yep.
John Morelli, you had something, I think?
Yes, well, besides the fact that we'll be over to the temple there for dinner soon, because I know you'll feed us.
Oh, 100% anytime.
Please come.
Please come.
But also, I just sent copies of part 2 and part 3 to Shelley and to John Felson. Who else would like them?
Well, I gotta sign it, and then once I sign it, Shelley can send it out to everybody.
Okay. Well, so I won't send it to anyone else then.
Did you, okay, okay, you said part 2 also.
Part 2 and part 3, yes.
Okay,
There's 2 documents.
Shelley can print part 2 for the file, and I will sign part 3 and get it back to her.
Okay,
And then Shelley can send it out to the other members.
okay.
Amber, I forgot you. You're down there in the corner. Did you have anything?
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, anything else, board members? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a
For happy
motion.
holidays and hopefully better time under the circumstances.
Yeah.
Yep.
Second.
Happy
that.
holidays. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good. Happy holidays. Get your.
Everybody.
guys.
Okay.
Hey,
Happy holidays.
holidays.
Bye.
Take care.
Charlie, everybody agreed to the motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Aye.
All right.
Okay.
You go.
Thanks, Victoria.
Good night.